everyone, back tuning into the JMA 3-month look ahead from GazWeathers.com for February. So the Japanese model is a long-range seasonal model that can go 3 months ahead. And when we do our seasonal updates and forecasts, and I'll be doing the final one for the spring of 2016 next weekend, next Sunday. When we do these long-range updates, we do include the JMA within those updates. But because we're using around 9 or 10, sometimes 11 long-range models altogether, I don't have time to really go through everything that you can see with the JMA, and you get a huge amount of information from the Japanese Meteorological Agency seasonal model. So what I like to do is sort of separate this one out and have a look at all of the information that we can get from this model for the next 3 months. And this month's update will in fact be taking us through the whole of the spring period. We start in March and we go through to May. As I say, this will be making up part of the spring forecast that you'll be able to see a week today. But I just like to have a look in isolation at the JMA and see both the Northern Hemisphere and the mid-latitude view to see what it's showing. So I'll get on with that in a second, but before I get on with that, just to say about the ads at GazWeathers. So there's links to articles on all the pages. Have a browse through widgets and click through the links if there's any articles that you're interested in, and thanks very much for doing that. There's also video ads on most of the pages. They open out within the content. When you watch them, they'll close back up again, and that is helping to pay for our website as well. So we're going to start off with the 500 millibar height anomalies from the Northern Hemisphere view. So this is looking down at the UK from the top of the pole for the next 3 months, and then we'll have a look at the mid-latitude view, which will tell us how the temperatures and precipitation and that kind of thing is looking. As you know, with 500 millibar heights blue, it's extrapolating to low pressure, and the brighter colours, sort of orange, yellow, red, extrapolates to high pressure. So this is the anomaly chart for March, first of all, March 2016. What we see is we've got a deep trough of low pressure sitting up to the north and west of the country. A ridge is down to the south and to the southwest as well. It means that the flow is coming more or less through the north of the country, going a bit like that. So it's quite an Atlantic-driven signal here for March, quite unsettled, particularly so in the north and west. This is quite a lot of strong ridging mode down to the south, so it would protect the south somewhat. And remember, this is an anomaly for the month, so it doesn't preclude deviations from this pattern. It also doesn't preclude the chance that you could have one half of the month that looks very different to this, and then the second half looks something like this, and bring it all together, the model sort of brings this out as the anomaly. So it doesn't tell you a huge amount. You really need to see the temperature and precipitation to see how this is stacking up in terms of actual weather. But nevertheless, that's a signal for March. Quite an Atlantic-driven month there, particularly so to the northwest, but driest conditions will be in the south and southeast, but all places will be at risk of rain at times. And the way things are aligning, by the way, I think this is fairly cool air that's coming from quite a long way north in the Atlantic as well. So it wouldn't be a tremendously mild March if that came off. April looks a little bit colder, actually. What we find in April is that the trough is sinking down more or less over the top of the country. We've got this ridge pulling out into the central part of the Atlantic, and it's flattening off to the south of us as well. So it means that the jet stream is going like that. We're on the cold side of the jet there, excuse me, and we are bringing the air down from, well, we're entrenching within that trough, quite cold northerly air streams. There's also a fair amount of northern blocking showing up, quite a lot of bright colours appearing over the top of the pole with those yellow colours. So I think this could be a significantly colder month actually for April. There would be wintry potential in there for April. It isn't too late, certainly, to get frost. You can get some very damaging frost in April. It probably won't be too late to get snow as well, particularly up in the north. So quite a cold April would be my interpretation of that, and unsettled as well, which does give wintry potential. We'll have a look at the temperature and precipitation in a second. And then finally we go through to May. Rather an odd looking signal for May. We've still got a lot of yellow here over the top of the North Pole, so still signalling quite a bit of northern blocking up there. To the south, we've also got some ridging down to the south of the country. You've got a trough of low pressure around Greenland. It's all going on, but I think overall the flow is probably going a bit like that. So although it actually doesn't look too bad a month, there's a lot of yellow there. If I just get rid of those lines, there's quite a lot of yellow there across the west and the northwest of Europe, but I don't think it's quite as good as you probably think. Certainly I reckon it's a cool month, because I think the jet stream is going like that. So I think we're pretty much on the cool side of the jet there. And it could be a little bit more unsettled than you would think by looking at that. The worst of the trough is certainly out in the central part of the Atlantic, but I think we would be bringing energy through something like that. So rather cool and unsettled really is the signal for this spring, particularly so for April. It's a weaker signal for March and May, but I think I don't think any of these months are signalling anything particularly warm for this spring. At times it could be quite cool. Let's have a look at the mid-latitude view then. So this is looking at the mid-latitudes and the tropics, basically. So we've got the tropics just here through the middle part of the chart, just there. And then these are the mid-latitudes. This is the northern latitude. This is the southern latitude. We can't see the polar regions. The North Pole is up here off the chart. The South Pole is again down here off the chart. So this is very much looking at the tropics and the mid-latitude. The British Isles is up in the very far top right-hand corner of the chart as you're looking at it. So we're starting off with March, and what we see for March, you've got a trough of low pressure in the Atlantic. We've got this ridging down to the south, so we know it's going to be quite an Atlantic-driven month. The flow's going like that. The jet stream is more or less coming through the country, but it's a little bit more towards the north than it is to the south. So the south gets the best of it through March with the driest, mildest conditions, but not completely dry, and possibly at times quite unsettled. The north, though, does get the worst of it in March. Let's see if the temperatures agree with this. So here's the temperature anomaly for March. We're coming out generally a little bit above average. It isn't a warm month by any means. The warmer colours are these yellow colours just here. They aren't over us. So it's near normal temperatures to a little bit above average for signal for temperatures in March. Precipitation, it's not surprising because it's quite an Atlantic-driven month, so precipitation is coming out above average, a wetter than average month being predicted in March. And now look at the wind arrows. You have a job to make these out because they are very small, but there's little black arrows just indicating where the general wind direction is coming from. And it's generally westerly with those wind arrows, and indeed that goes in to Europe as well. So quite a westerly, quite Atlantic-driven, unsettled month, and temperatures near normal to just a little bit above average. Now, April looked a colder month. We've got the trough centred right over top of the country. You can't see it on these charts because it's off the chart, but seeing quite a lot of northern blocking up here over the polar field, which is sending the jet stream and cold air down into that trough that's over the top of the country. So have we got a colder than average month being signalled in April? Yes, we have. We've got the blue colours there through the country, so it's indicating temperatures to be coming out below average. Could be our first colder than average month of 2016 if that comes off. The precipitation is still above average, so cold and wet, the signal for April here from the JMA model. And of course, with below average temperatures and above average rainfall or above average precipitation, there is the chance still there of wintry conditions. It's not too late in April to be seeing snow, especially in the north. The wind arrows, again, probably can't make them out all that well, but the arrows are in from the north here, just showing that the cold air is being entrenched from the north into that trough of low pressure. So April does look a bit grim, really, with the JMA. Could be quite a cold, wet, unsettled month with a risk of some damaging late season frost and possibly snow as well, and that's particularly so for the north. And then we go through to May. May was a very strange looking chart, really. You've got this ridging down to the south of us, we've also got this trough up to the north. The jet stream, I think, is going a bit like that. So although we are sort of under yellow colours there, you probably think that's not too bad. I think we'd actually bring the jet stream through the country a bit like that within the 500 millibar flow. So let's see how the temperatures are looking, and they aren't as cold as they are for April, so that's the good news. We're going back closer to average. You probably can't work it out, but there is a little splodge of blue there across England, but I don't think we need to worry too much about that. Let's say near normal temperatures to maybe a little bit above average then, the signal for May. For precipitation, though, that's not as good. It isn't as wet as it is as we see for March and April, but nevertheless, May is still coming out with a slightly, and it is very slightly, wetter than average prediction there. So again, I think it's better. We are building the ridge down to the south and trying to push it north, but I think we're still really bringing the jet stream through the country. There's probably still some sort of trough around the northwest of Europe within the 500 millibar flow. It may be just an unravelling of that very, very unsettled and pretty grim April pattern. It may be that as going to May takes quite a long while to unravel from that pattern, but it's an improving month perhaps. So late on in the month it could get significantly drier and warmer, something like that. Remember, these are anomalies, and it doesn't preclude deviations from those anomalies as the months are progressing. The wind arrows are quite interesting. They're showing the winds generally coming up from a southwesterly to southerly type direction, which you would think is quite good, but I think what's happening is that with warmth is going up there, or the southerlies are going up there, and then coming down in that sort of fashion. And again, on this side of the chart, so the southerlies, the air will be going like that, and then it's coming down like that. So we're just really on the wrong side of those southerly winds. It will be quite a frustrating month perhaps in May, but that's 3 months away. It's a very, very long time away, and don't worry too much about that. I think it's really March and April that we're going to be considering more for this update. So March looks Atlantic driven, temperatures still a little bit above average, but wetter than average. And April looks very grim, with a trough over country and trenching cold air into that trough. You would expect a pretty grim April if that was to come off. Now, of course, this is just one model, and next week, a week today, I'm going to be using at least 9 models, possibly more, to have a look at what they're all showing for the spring. And it could be that they are all disagreeing with this. Who knows what's going to happen next week. So come back for the final, the third and final and official GaussWeatherViz.com Spring 2016 forecast next week. But that's it for the JMA free monthly update for this month. All right, that's all for now. Thanks for watching.